Live and online, it's Sleepless with Steve and the Movie Book Club with your host, Steve Pulaski.
On a Tuesday? What's going on, everybody? It is Sleepless with Steve, back and better than ever, wide awake on a Tuesday at an ungodly hour at 7:30. Normally, this would be OT, but we are just getting started on one of the most salacious and one of the most fun recaps, one of the most fun shows we can do next to our best and worst of shows of the year. What's going on? Sleepless with Steve recapping the Academy Awards on a Tuesday night. Blame our hectic schedules, blame our busy lives. If not for this window of time on this very busy week for myself and these two gentlemen, we couldn't give you our recap of the 96th Academy Awards, and I know everybody's chomping at the bit to hear what the hell I have to say after going 14-9 for the Academy Awards this year. But we are going to make do. Joe has got the background to let you know what we are talking about in case you so happen to forget. Dominic Guanzon is here. Grateful for him.
This is my Oscar. Right here. I win.
Man, they fucked up that Pringles logo big time. It's flattened him out. Like,
I kind of get it, but it's missing something. It's missing some hair.
It's missing some dimension, like every app logo this day and age. But we are here in live and in living color to bring you Sleepless with Steve tonight. The Oscars are the only thing we're talking about. Of course, some big news had to break today, which would have been our news subject today, about Neve Campbell coming back to Scream, and Kevin Williamson, the writer of Scream, gonna direct that. Maybe we'll table that depending on what's going to come with that. I don't know if that means some people who previously dropped out, some people who previously got fired are going to come back to that. Credit to you, Joe, for making me aware of that story. I hadn't heard that one, but you sent that earlier today. But we will get into that another day. It is the Oscar recap show. Props to you if you remembered that it was at an earlier time. I did not. We will get into all of that today, though. We will get into the surprises, the big wins, the snubs, what we liked, what we didn't like. Got kind of a good roadmap of how we're going to follow this show today that I'm really looking forward to divulging. But first things first, it's a weird night doing this on a Tuesday. I'm not going to lie. Kind of threw my Tuesday off for a loop, but for good reason. For good reason, no less. And for that, I start with you, Joe. How are you feeling on this Tuesday evening?
This feels weird. Normally right now I would be just doing some homework or playing some video games by this time, depending on how my workload is. But no, we're here talking about the Oscars, and you know what? It's perfectly fine because I got a lot to say about Sunday night's show, and I'm looking forward to sharing with you guys. I'm very much looking forward to also next week because I will be on vacation. I haven't taken a vacation in quite some time. I mean, I've been gone from the show sometimes because of just other obligations, or I've traveled for school or work. But to actually go somewhere on my own time for myself, it's been a while, so I'm looking forward to that.
Very much so. Very much so. I know how you feel right there. Dom, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right. Hey, remember when we did this from like midnight to 3 a.m? Like, I can't, it's like we're called Sleepless with Steve and we're all effed up at 7:30 on a Tuesday. It's like, Jesus Christ. I am turning 30, aren't I?
We all graduate college and like 7:30 is like, oh shit, you want to start now?
so effing true. Joe chose to do more school, which is insane to me. But
yes.
Good for you though.
In my defense, this is about the time. Because, we used to do it
That's
Wednesday
true, because you
morning.
get up at like 4, right? Or 5?
Well, no, we used to do it Wednesday morning from 12 to 3. So about this time, I'd be getting ready for my 3-hour nap before the show. And then I would wake up about 10 after 11, and then drive to the studio.
Dude, that summer where, the summer you left, basically. Like, we only did like a couple shows, and then you left the station.
Seacrest out, I moved,
Yeah. I used to take 4 or 5 hour naps because most of the time that summer I was doing 12 to 6, and that was the worst decision I ever made was like doing
Yeah,
12
you
to
did
6.
both.
Yeah, doing 12 to 6 the
Yep.
night of Sleepless, because I was like, oh, Steve will be around. I got him for the first 3 hours, and then the last 3 hours will be a breeze. And then when you left, like, by like the third week of the summer, I was like, oh shit, I'm fucked.
It was the end of June. The last week of June was my final show before I dipped for Peru, Illinois.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was my last show. And I'll never forget, I left the studio. It wasn't Sleepless, technically. It was Vintage Rock. Vintage Rock. I know I'm lagging there. My apologies there. I know exactly what I'm doing screwing this up, and I apologize greatly. But it was Vintage Rock, my final show at WONC, and I played My Way, and I put My Way on, and I timed it perfectly to drive home.
That's awesome.
But we are here tonight to talk about the Oscars, and it's a big show for us. It really is. There's a lot of things we can get into. First things first, it started earlier. Pissed off at you guys. You didn't let me know about that. I was admittedly 10 minutes
I was 2 hours late. I was 2 hours late.
Yes, you were. Yes, you were.
I completely got the time wrong. I forgot how Eastern Standard Time works compared to Central Time. It's like, oh, oh, all right, yeah, whatever. I guess this is where I'm at.
See, I was so confused because like I was walking downstairs and they were my family was watching it downstairs and they were already on the red carpet and they're like, oh, we gotta get in. The show's about to start and everything. I'm like, what the fuck you talking about? I'm like, we got like another hour before this starts.
You know what's funny, and Joe, you have it, like, because when I was making my Oscar predictions on my website, I noticed this too, that like the Oscar graphic, the main one that they used this year, has the time in it, which should have been an inkling that something was going to be fucked this year, because every Oscar logo this year, like the one you have on your background, has the time, 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. You know, that's one of my biggest pet peeves in the world is time zones. It's one of my biggest pet peeves in the world. And if you've ever noticed, most TV commercials, especially on local channels, they'll always say like 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific or something like that.
Yeah.
They never specify Central. Central is the best fucking time zone. I don't care what anybody says. You know, it's always 10 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Mayan. Yeah. It's always some cockamamie time zone.
Yeah, and if you're,
I like your hardcore. I like how your hardcore fandom for a very arbitrary, something you just admitted to being a very arbitrary thing. I love it. Love it.
I hate time zones. I remember the first time, not to go long-winded on the opening, but I remember the
our
first
Oscar
time
recap, the time zone.
The fucking time zone. The first time me and my buddies went to Cleveland, or we went to the Eastern. We took a trip to the Eastern time zone.
Yeah,
I
did this too.
Yeah. This is so weird because it's specifically Cleveland, in the Midwest.
No, you want to hear this, okay? Now, fuck me for asking this question. God, I hope my buddy Nick, aka Snorlax, is watching this part of the show. So I'm a very sheltered boy. At the time, I'd never been out of the Central time zone. So we were driving to Cleveland. And God forbid I asked this question, because I didn't know. I said, random question. Because I knew we were going to Eastern time zone, going to Ohio, going to Cleveland. I said, are our phones going to automatically change the time when we get to Cleveland? Or are we going to be behind and have to set our phones? And oh my God, the laughter. You'd have thought Chris Rock was performing. Okay. I'm like, well, fuck me. One of my favorite phrases. Fuck me for not knowing the intricacies of time zones. But yes, if you're like us and in Central Time, I mean, any time zone, it started an hour earlier, but like the Oscars typically start at 7. And how I found out was I was at Catherine's house, and I got a tweet from Richard Roper, and he referenced Jimmy Kimmel's monologue it was a Madam Web reference at like 6:05. And I was like, shit, I think they already started. And sure enough, I got to the TV about 6:10. And I was like, these bastards started earlier, and they did not realize, let me know. Dom, you were even later to the show.
I was at a friend's house, and we were jamming. We were recreating the scene from Bob Marley's One Love, where we were jamming. Maybe not that kind of music, but regardless, I looked at my phone. Yeah, same thing happened to me. It's like I look at my phone. It's like, hey, Hey, Steve and Joe are really are they're getting some hype for the film for the Oscars. I'm like, I think I think it started like early. Again, I double fucked it up. So not only did I also get the time zone wrong like you guys, I just straight up don't know how time zones work.
You thought you were in Cleveland. You thought you were in Cleveland. It started at
100%
8.
non-controversial opinion. Ohio should be in Central Time Zone.
Yeah.
Yes.
It should that should be mandated. I don't care what Ohioans think. They should be in Central Time Zone.
I would like to throw Missouri into there as well.
Yes. Wait, what?
Yeah, Missouri's an hour behind.
Aren't there parts of Indiana too that are in Eastern?
Yep.
The mountain?
Yeah.
I never.
There's parts of Missouri and mountain, and there's parts of Indiana that are Eastern. Correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Fucked up.
The
country.
Oscars. The Oscars. All right.
Fucked up country. Anyway,
Steve, go.
Anyway, so I guess starting by this, I will say though, now that I know that this damn thing is going to start at 6 now for the future, at least I assume, I don't hate it. Not only as somebody who works morning radio, but also I looked at the clock, Central Time again. This thing was over at 9:25. I don't hate that. I remember Oscars going till 10 to 11, 10:50, 10:55. I don't hate it. Now that I know, I don't hate this thing starting at 6 o'clock in the evening. And it was funny too, because if you recall, and Joe, I know you watched it from the beginning. I watched it slightly after the beginning. Jimmy Kimmel kept talking about after the Oscars, stay tuned for a new episode of Abbott Elementary. And I'm like, that's ambitious. Usually you preempt the news going into the Oscars. That's ambitious that you're going to try to get an episode of a brand new show that what from the internet tells me has quite a bit of a following, Abbott Elementary. But you know what?
It's about public schools in Chicago. So yeah, it's pretty big.
Abbott Elementary started on time. They kept promoting it as immediately after the Oscars, and then it came on right at 9:30. So I'm like, okay, I don't know if it's spring books, like ratings books. That's part of I think that's part of the draw there too. But either way, they got this thing on a pretty good schedule. It was the first time ever that I remember the Oscars starting at a specific time and then ending while the TV guide on the TV screen said the Oscars. Because normally the last 20 minutes, you look at it, you hit guide, or you hit like, I guess if you're streaming, you hit up on the controller and it says like the news or something like that, and it's still the Oscars. So I think that was probably the best thing. One of the best things about the Oscars was that it was about 3 hours and 25 minutes, and it fell right into a very, in my opinion, optimal time.
Yes, that was like my first thing that I felt was while watching the show, and I was watching this through the first 20 minutes because Double Toasted. I was watching it with them on a watch party that they did on their website for their Patreon users. I was watching this on YouTube TV, and then once they started their watch party, I switched over to them because it's just like, okay, whenever I'm watching this by myself, it's like I like to have at least something else or some other commentary. So listening to them is always fun. But even while watching them, I just felt like, damn, this is flying by. And I don't know if it's because we started earlier or like they just found the appropriate amount of time to showcase one of the best pictures, have a musical act perform, and given I think an ample amount of time to each of the categories to get up there and say their speech. Like anytime like someone's getting played off, I was like, okay, yeah, they are going on a bit longer, or they jump back onto the mic and everything. It's like I think like they did such a great job at keeping pace that like it made the Oscars for me this year. I'll go more into this as we go out throughout the show. Probably one of my favorite shows we've had in so long.
It just felt good.
Agree.
It just felt not non-controversial, but rather it's like you're waiting for something to go wrong, and it kind of did, which we will talk about at the very end. But yeah, it was it went by fast, and I also I agree. I don't mind the earlier start time.
I guess we can start. I kind of gave you guys a roadmap how I'd like to do the show too, and we would talk like upsets. We talk our favorite wins, our favorite little bits and things like that. some of our disappointments, the flaws in the show, as there are everyone, and then we would wrap up. Looking at my ballot here, I got 14 of 23 correct. Not very pleased. Happy to a degree. Happy that I got 5 of the 6 major categories correct, but overall, there was a period of time, I'm not gonna lie. Um, I've kept track of how I've done for the Oscars for the last 14 years, since I started predicting the show. And I would love to have known the longest losing streak that I've been on, because I started the show 2-0. I started the show 2-0 because they opened with Best Actress in a Supporting Role, and then they said Animated Short Film. So I was 2-0 to start, and then 6 categories in a row I missed.
So you
Wow.
said,
Six
you said Spider-Verse then.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
A lot of people did,
A lot of
including me.
people
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, I did. Like an overwhelming, I would say, Gold Derby. One of the major handicapper sites, shows you how good they are. Had like 78% people saying Spider-Verse. In hindsight's 2020, but I'm like, you know what? My eyes rolled right over Hayao Miyazaki. My eyes rolled right over that. And I kid you not, when we were watching it, me and Catherine, I told Catherine, I said, I should go back. I kid you not. This was what fucked me. In the preceding or in the upcoming minutes to when they revealed Best Animated Short or Best Animated Film, I told Catherine, I said, I should go back, but I am almost positive I've gotten this category right every single year. I kid you not, I said that. I said that maybe like 3 minutes, 2 minutes before
You
the show.
idiot.
I'm telling you, man.
You
I'm
saying
telling
that somehow the letters in the envelope became the boy in the heron instead of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
you. We didn't even get to see the fucking heron except the award. But anyway,
That's a stupid ass joke. I love it.
the biggest upset of the night, indisputably, was Emma Stone. And we talked about this when the announcements came in.
Yeah.
We said, and Joe was really the one spearheading it. I remember. We talked about how it was. I thought Lily Gladstone was a shoo-in from the time I saw Killers of the Flower Moon. I thought it made too much sense. And then Emma Stone started getting traction. A lot of these film critic circles, a lot of these independent awards and everything started giving it to her. And then the momentum shift. I stuck with Lily Gladstone out of a gut feeling. I always say my Oscar ballot is about 70% head, 30% heart. That's how I make my ballot. And it wound up being Emma Stone. And I don't care what anybody says. We can linger on this for a few because Poor Things was really responsible for most of the upsets of the night. Can we agree? Poor Things was really responsible for most of the upsets. Emma Stone's reaction to her name being read and her subsequent speech were indicative that even she did not expect to win. What do we say about Emma Stone winning for Poor Things?
I called it. So I'm gonna start with that. Yes. And I called it because, I like I said, I saw it first out of all of us. So I was ending our year, or at least I was going into our best of going, no, I think this is genuinely the best performance of the year. Both actors and actresses, I think overall, this is just the best performance I've seen this year. And I think it has a chance to just, as the award season goes on, it's going to just ramp on up. We've talked about how we felt about Killers of the Flower Moon. I mean, I even made a joke of it in our best of whole section that we did and everything. And look, I'm going to say this. Did Lily Gladstone deserve the award? In some ways, yeah. There's definitely an argument to be had there that she deserved it because for the longest time, she was the best female performance, I think, of the year. I really loved her performance. So I just thought, like, yeah, I mean, that's a shoo-in and everything. It's very rare performance that we get to see from people. And something in a Scorsese film, too, which, like that, man, that gives you so much, like, clout for an Oscar, possibly. But yeah, man, like, I thought back to it, too, and I was thinking to myself, I'm like, man, all right, look, how many times has someone been nominated in a Martin Scorsese film and they haven't gotten jack squat? Like, we thought Jordan Belfort We thought
Hmm.
Leo playing Jordan Belfort was gonna be his first Oscar, and it wasn't. It went to McConaughey. There's so many times I look at these performances and I'm like, damn, like no matter what, like Scorsese is this big name in Hollywood. He's this big name with critics. Yet every award season, when you get to the big almighty one itself, I feel like this guy never gets his due. Like other than The Departed, of course, back then, but like following years, it's always like nothing, man. Um, yeah, it was her reaction, Emma Stone's that is, and her speech. Yeah, if I was her, I would have thought they were gonna give this to Lily Gladstone. There's no way I'm winning this tonight. Like, I totally, I totally see where she was coming from. But for me, as somebody who's just an outside viewer, I just felt it. I even texted you guys right before the category happened. I'm like, man, I got a funny fucking feeling Emma Stone's gonna win this shit tonight.
And I was like, oh, because we were on a delay. So Joe was the last one, I think, to see
I
it. And I
was, yeah.
texted like, Jane Fonda won for 80 for Brady. Where did that come from? No, what lost Lily Gladstone the Oscar was Martin Scorsese's direction and the screenwriters for Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yep.
That's what lost her the Oscar. Like, you can have
Yep.
the best perform, and sometimes this does happen where a really good performance overtakes even a very mid film. But something about Killers of the Flower Moon is it's getting harder for me to articulate it as time goes on. I feel like I almost need to kind of watch it again just to get this point back. But it's like, aside from the fact that yes, she effectively bedridden for like give or take a third to a half of this movie, and that's not great. Like, that's not a showcase at all. But the fact that it comes down to um it's also the cards were stacked against Gladstone because it almost, because of that writing, because of that direction, she almost felt like a supporting character in her own goddamn movie. Whereas Emma Stone was the lead, period. Actor, actress, whatever. She was the lead, hands down. Um, and it just sucks to see because yeah, I get the poetry of like, yeah, um, when Marlon Brando won the award and I forget her name. I'm sorry, Whitefeather. She took the Oscar on his behalf, and then they had to like restrain. They had to physically restrain John Wayne from like bitch slapping this Native woman trying to plea for like human rights because John Wayne's a piece of shit and always has been. But he. It's like how poetic would have been to get in a movie about the Osage murders and all this abuse. But I'm sorry, no matter what narrative you try to spell, and I think we all learned this with Chadwick Boseman. Uh, it's like, yeah, no matter what narrative you try to spin, it really does come down to the movie that you make. So, yeah, in my opinion, the right person won, and that's unfortunate to say. But hey, man, Lily Gladstone, she's gonna have way more to do. She's gonna get hers at some point, no doubt about it.
I hope so, because if Hollywood has a track record, there's no guarantee. And I think that's why I felt bad for Lily Gladstone on Sunday night, was because Seth MacFarlane, I don't remember who it was. It might have been Jimmy Kimmel, because I think Seth MacFarlane hosting the year The Artist won the Best Picture.
Oh, okay.
I think so. Because I remember there being a joke at the Oscars. Jean Dujardin, the French actor, is the
Mm-hmm.
lead in the artist who won Best Actor that year. And I don't know who to credit this to, so I'm just going to say the joke was best actor can change your acting career. The trajectory and the opportunities you get. Just ask Jean Dujardin.
That's so
What have
true.
you seen him in recently?
Dude, he was just like literally. I remember he was in Wolf of
That's a
Wall
brutal
Street.
joke, and it's so fucking true.
He was
Yeah, it's
in
true.
he was in Wolf of Wall Street, and then I just never saw him in a movie after that.
You're better than me because I remember him in Wolf of Wall Street and I remember him in The Monuments Men.
Oh
Yes.
shit.
The George Clooney movie. He was
Yeah.
in that one too. That was the last notable one. Barkat Abdi, who played the Somalian pirate in Captain Phillips. One of my favorite performances from that year. You know, as my dad would always say, you don't read about him in the obituaries. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the sad part. And then going back to Joe's point here, real quick. As far as the main categories are concerned, best director, best picture. including Best Adapted Screenplay. Martin Scorsese has been nominated for 15 awards combined in those three categories: Best Director, Best Picture, Best Adapted Screenplay. He's won one. The Departed,
Yeah.
Best Picture.
Not
That
for-
was the only one he won.
Yeah, never for best director or best writing, like none of that. It's like it's so shocking considering like how high he's given on a pedestal, and it's like, damn. I mean, like I'm like the guy hasn't even won best director, and you all hold him to this. I'm not saying he's not. Like he is one of the greatest filmmakers of all time. Even as an
He
argument,
has never won Best Director.
yeah. Even
But
an
you know
argument-
what? This was not the movie. This was not the movie.
No, it wasn't.
If he did win, I would have been
No,
so
no,
pissed.
he's had 5 fucking movies that should have won for Best Director. He's had 5 movies.
Mhm.
Casino, Raging Bull, Goodfellas. Like, he's had Last Temptation of Christ even. I would argue Bringing Out the Dead, which nobody talks about either. He's had at least 5 movies he should have won Best Director for. And I keep waiting, too, because we're going to have Marty around until he's 100. He's going to live to be 100. Mark my words. Mark my words. I can see him giving a Joe Pesci speech at the Oscars when Joe Pesci won his Oscar. You know, to this day, Joe Pesci has the record for the shortest Oscar speech.
Yeah.
He has the record for the shortest Oscar speech. He got up there, he grabbed the award, and as soon as he got to the mic, he said, "This is an honor and a privilege. Thank you." And then he walked off.
That's awesome.
He has
That's
the record
awesome.
for the shortest Oscar speech. And I think the only Oscar speech where he really didn't thank anybody specifically. He just thanked the royal you. This
That's
is an
awesome.
honor and a privilege. Thank you. But the other point we'll make before we cut to break over here, it's going to be a long show. Would you have believed me in July when we were doing our review of Oppenheimer that fucking movie was not going to win Best Sound? Would you have believed me?
So what did win best sound? I forgot. Was it
The Zone of Interest.
Okay, I almost said Anatomy of the Fall. Yeah, that's right. Zone of Interest. I was so shocked when that won because I was watching Eventually, one of my friends joined me on Discord, and we started watching the watch party together. And I remember when that happened, I went, "You gotta be fucking kidding me! Like Oppenheimer didn't win for best sound."
That, I think, quietly was the biggest shock of the night.
Yeah.
Quietly. And now I get that most people do not care about the best sound category. I get
Technical
it.
awards, yeah.
Now, I don't want to milk these
Hey,
last
Nolan
5
sure
minutes,
does.
but I know I've bitched about this. I know I've bitched about this on this very show and in the very reviews I write at stevepulaski.com. Let me just get this rant out for a second. I have no problem with the Zone of Interest winning Best Sound. I have not seen the Zone of Interest. I can't wait to see the Zone of Interest. I wish I could fucking see the Zone of Interest. But who is the distribution company? A24. And who has consistently shortchanged the release of their movies more so than any other film distribution company in the last decade than A24. And this is the problem I have. They know how to pick movies. They don't make movies, they distribute them. I got to clarify that all the time. They don't make them, they distribute them. They know how to pick the movies to sell. What they do not know how to do is market. They have shortchanged and left more money on the table for movies like Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, like The Zone of Interest. Did you guys know that the only Oscar movie not to get expanded into a wide release, the only Oscar-nominated Best Picture movie to not get expanded in theaters this year was The Zone of Interest? You know what movie you still cannot stream? The Zone of Interest. I don't understand what they're doing. And that's the shame of it. It was the Oscar-nominated movie that, from what I've read of reviews, because that's all I have to go on, is the most eclectic, non-commercial Best Picture nominee in gotta be 30, 40 years. It is a very unique movie. It is a very artistic movie, and it is a movie that is not typically known to get a Best Picture nomination. Why would you not try to give that movie a chance? Why would you not try to give that movie a platform? Why would you not? You have a deal with Max. Why would you not release it onto streaming even a week before the Oscars aired? I don't understand it. I really don't. It's kind of a quiet miracle. Everything Everywhere All at Once made over $100 million in theaters, because this is not the first and it's not going to be the last movie that they completely fucking butchered when it comes to releasing into theaters. It's a damn shame.
It's so crazy too, because the local theater by my place, not the AMC. The AMC didn't even get it where I live either, which is shocking. The AMC that I have by me gets almost every film I need to go see. Hell, I saw The Hurt Locker, I remember, during its limited release at this AMC. I was like, holy crap, this place really gets everything. But this local theater near me, Marcus Theaters, shout out to Greg Marcus, thank you. They had a Best Picture passport thing where you can pay $20 to see 4 of these films, or pay 70-something to see all 11. And originally they had the Zone of Interest on there. And then they sent an update saying you can only now see up to 10 because they could not get the film reel for the Zone of Interest to cover all their locations. And I was just like, this movie's nearly impossible to find. I just looked at showtimes on my phone. It's only playing in 2 theaters by me. And it's 2 art house theaters with like 2 showtimes a day. Right in the fucking morning and right when I get out of work. So
yeah, 6 o'clock in the morning and 4:45 in the afternoon. I'm sure
you can finally. This might have just been today, but you can finally stream it on Amazon Prime for $6.
Oh gosh, golly, gee willikers! 2 days after the fucking Oscars ended too.
I like how any space involving showing this film is inherently not a zone of interest. The complete opposite of it. No one's fucking watching this thing, which sucks.
You think this thing is Chernobyl? You think it's Chernobyl over here?
No, that was HBO. That's a TV series.
It's the Polish Film Institute. It's the Polish Film Institute. I hate disrespecting my brethren over here, but they're the production company behind it. They are not to be blamed for the distribution of this movie, which was categorically failed by A24.
Yeah.
Yeah, boy.
I've been reading the Siskel and Ebert book by Matt Singer, okay? So I've got a reinvigorated sense of film criticism and the exterior things that come along with it over here.
Back, baby.
I got some more upsets to share, too. Well, I got one more upset to share when we get back from the break.
Absolutely. Hey, Dom, you said he's back, baby. To quote one of my favorite rappers, Montana of 300, in this bitch like an embryo. God. We are going to take a quick break over here. We will be back in a few short minutes over here, 60 to 90 seconds, give or take. Don't go anywhere. We got a lot more to talk about this year's Oscars, the 96th Academy Awards. For Joe Viso, Dominic Guanzon, and yours truly, we will be back just a couple of minutes on Sleepless with Steve. Back and better than ever on a night that I'm still not quite sure on. It's almost Pie Day. I know that. It's Sleepless with Steve live on YouTube on this Tuesday evening. I got it right. Blessed so. We are talking about the 96th Annual Academy Awards. We've got a lot to chew on. We were just talking about the best sound category, which was the perfect platform for me to launch into a rant about how A24 disrespects some of their movies. And at first I thought Marcel the Shell with Shoes On was the worst way that they distributed a movie. And now I can confirm it was the Zone of Interest for sure. Be that as it may, we're going to leave that post the or pre the break. We're going to leave that there because I could keep going. The other big upset, in my opinion, and I'm just going to talk about this if you guys, because we've kind of got this rhythm now of me, then Joe, then Dom. If you guys want to touch on this, feel free. If not, if you want to share your biggest upset of the evening, go for it. I think the other obvious upset, though, for me was Best Animated Feature. I thought Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse was a shoo-in. I really did. I talked about earlier in the show how I was bragging to my girlfriend, Catherine. I said that I feel like I've picked Best Animated Feature correct every single year, and this was the year I got it wrong. It was The Boy and the Heron. And fun fact, they put this on the screen in like very small print. You needed binoculars to read it, but I caught it. And it said that Hayao Miyazaki was officially now the oldest the oldest filmmaker, the oldest person rather, to win an Oscar at 83 years old. So tip of the cap to Miyazaki. I have not seen The Boy and the Heron. I'm not mad about it winning. It was just an upset. It was a shock to me, really, because I thought Spider-Man was really the shoe-in there. Somebody's going to write a dissertation about how Phil Lord and Christopher Miller keep getting shafted when it comes to the best animated feature category, because there was no greater example than when the Lego movie did not get a best animated film Oscar that year.
But the fucking song did.
But the song did.
Yeah.
But the Lego movie did not get a nomination that year for Best Animated Feature. And I've told you guys before, I know I've said this on this very show. Does anybody remember the reason why the Lego movie did not get a nomination that year?
I actually don't.
No.
Because the Academy does not like block people.
Oh my God.
Anyway.
God damn, you're right. I do remember that stupid joke.
Yeah. It's still funny. That is still funny. I will milk that for the rest of my life. Joe, what say you? Biggest upset? You could touch on Spider-Man if you want, but biggest upset in your mind.
So, look, I can't really speak to the animated category because I only saw one other film in that category besides Spider-Verse, and that was not Inside Out. Oh my God, the movie that was like Inside Out. Elemental.
I literally have the list.
Elemental.
Elemental. I was like, that's the only other animated movie I saw that was nominated here. Like the Turtles weren't. There's a few other ones that I saw, like Super Mario Bros. That wasn't nominated. So I was just kind of like, shit. I really don't know. I mean, I guess Spider-Verse. And I know a lot of people have argued about the whole animation, the amount of detail that went into that movie, and hours and dedication from each animator, and the amount of time they had to work overtime too without probably getting compensated for it. Without getting compensated for it, we found out through Sony.
Yeah,
there's your comeuppance.
Yeah. It sucks to see that, they didn't get now they got one more movie. They got Beyond, and we know they're gonna go even crazier with Beyond's animation and everything as well. So I'm not too worried about it, or I'm not too upset about it. It was a shock. I was like, damn, okay. One that actually shocked me, despite me loving this film, it was my favorite film last year, I was actually genuinely surprised Barbie didn't win Best Costume. Because I was like, man, they really brought these things to life. Like, they actually brought all these outfits. And not only that, but like the discontinued line of toys, and it's showing them at the end of the movie, and like how they brought those costumes to life and everything. I was shocked. I was like, damn, like, don't get me wrong. Poor Things has amazing costumes. It really does. It feels like you're watching like a Tim Burton movie at times. Not even Tim Burton, but like it really feels like you're watching something like the artistry being done almost on every frame, with every little detail from costumes, camera work, all that stuff, set design.
Right.
But it was crazy that I really thought Barbie was gonna get at least another award beside. I knew it had best song locked in, whether it was for I'm Just Ken or What Was I Made For. I'm like, that is where Barbie's gonna win. but I'm surprised it didn't win best production or best costume. I'm surprised it wasn't. It didn't get at least one more in those, and I was actually genuinely shocked about that. I was like, damn, okay, that's crazy.
Yeah, for me, it's the also animated. Just but you know what? If they're gonna lose to anything, it's gonna be fucking Miyazaki, right?
Yeah,
It's like that. He's won before for Spirited Away, the first anime production. He's like the godfather of anime.
yeah,
So it's like, you know what? That makes sense. And you know what was one of the funniest things too? It's like Miyazaki is probably one of the more mainstream, probably one of the most mainstream anime people. But like, if he's your introduction to anime, you're effectively ruining the rest of anime because it's not that. You know what I'm
it's
talking
not. It's
about?
not.
Like
Yeah, the the way those
the
films are
dancing
made.
schoolgirls,
Yeah.
the fucking shonen
Y'all drag me
Dragon
to
Ball.
y'all drag me to Sword Art Online. I can attest to that.
100%. Yeah,
I
yeah.
go see like My Hero Academia, the third or fourth fucking movie, whatever it is, and it's like this is nothing like Miyazaki makes.
And that's
I go with Dom and Blaine to Super Robot Monkey Team Hyperforce Go over here, and it's not even a close to Miyazaki. The real ones remember that reference. Sorry to steal your thunder there, but
no, I mean 1000%. That's the thing though. It's like anyway, that's just my rant, which is that anime it needs to take itself seriously. But regardless, and there is one guy doing it, and he just won an Oscar again, his second Oscar. I also think it was also the help that this was Boy and the Heron was supposedly his last movie. Not only is he old, but he was supposedly retiring, even though everyone's expecting him to come out of retirement again. But uh, so that probably had a hand in it. But it's like, hey, like we got two titans duking it out here, and you know the one that got his comeuppance was the one that the one that I made that joke about Spider-Man maybe abusing some labor there, but you know who also did that? Studio Ghibli, the whole workforce of Japan, like any company in Japan is probably heavily like anyway, that's a whole thing. But yeah, beyond that, I don't think there really was. Yeah, the actress thing, even though upset from the standpoint, I don't really have any personal upsets. It was all upsets from the standpoint of like what we were expecting to win, what we thought like the Oscars,
Yeah.
the voters would have chosen. So honestly, this was a pretty satisfying thing for
Yeah.
me. I can't even be upset about sound because it's like, well, I haven't seen Zone of Interest. Maybe that shit did go. Like,
That's the thing too. I do want to add on to that, Dom, is that everything nominated though I felt deserved its nomination. There wasn't a single thing I looked at and I went, no, that doesn't deserve to be up there. This was a solid year of nominations.
yeah, there was no Saving Private Ryan, Shakespeare in Love moments here.
no, there was no Green Book to be found in this year's Oscars. I would argue for Ricky Stenicki from the same director, but that's beside the point. I would also the next thing I wanted to touch on is kind of our favorite wins, our favorite bits, and everything. I think we're all in agreement just from the group chat conversation too. You guys can touch on this individually too. I'm not going to go too long on it. I'm just kind of running down like 2 or 3 quick points here. I think the best, most welcome change that I hope they keep are the best performer the change they made to the best performer categories, where they have luminaries for past winners introduce each of the 5 has a singular actor/actress they are introducing, and they are talking about that movie specifically. And there's a couple reasons I like that. Number one, I think it's a very touching moment for the performers themselves that are nominated. I was talking to Catherine after the show, and I said, like, obviously this won't happen. This will not happen for 99.9% of the professions that we are in. But you know what? I'm not going to lie. Like, during those moments, whether it was Jessica Lange on that stage, whether it was Sam Rockwell, whomever was it, Mahershala Ali, Forrest Whitaker,
Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage, whoever was, giving a profile of the person nominated. There was a part of me as somebody who's very blessed to work in a creative industry like radio. I just kept thinking like, man, what if I was up for an award and like, I mean, I could say John Madormo, but he worked directly with me. But like one of my radio idols, like Eddie Volkman or Drex or somebody like that was introducing me and like saying like giving me all these complimentary flowers, I would legit bawl. And I am not a public crier by any means. I would legit be in tears. In that moment, I would feel like I already won. And that's what made it super
Yeah.
touching. The other thing that made it touching with those, I think we're going to linger on this for a minute. The other thing that made it touching was the fact that because they didn't show a clip from the movie, maybe I'm overly optimistic, but I'd like to think some people watching were more motivated to Google that person and look up what movie they were in and figure out, almost do a little research for themselves and figure out what this performance was that had these actors glowing the way that they did. And I hope they keep that. I really do. Because that was beautiful. And that made for some of the most touching moments of the Oscars. What say you, Joe?
I agree, wholeheartedly. It was. I even texted this in the chat. While like some people could say it's just a pat on the back for actor to actor, it was cool to see them talk about the art to one another and congratulate that person from one winner to eventually might be another. I even liked how you said like if you were that person, you were being talked to like that, you would have felt like, you know what, I basically won after hearing that from someone who's up there on stage right now. I think it's better too because I agree with you. I always said like the clips that they always play for a person's performance don't really do justice to that person's performance. Like sometimes they'll choose like just a clip. It's like, man, that's what you went with out of all the clips, or it's just like, you know, out of context. This really doesn't sell. Like the best example is Marriage Story because the clips from that movie was the argument between Adam Driver and Scarlett Johansson, and it did not sell how good those two performances really were. You see that out of context, you didn't feel the tension throughout that movie building up to that argument, bottling up between all of them, and all everything that went back and forth behind the scenes between their two characters in the courtrooms and everything. It's just like that doesn't pay off enough. When I have another Oscar winner though describing how great their performance was and what they did, to me, yeah, it makes me seem more interested in that. It also led to some funny moments. I loved when Nicolas Cage congratulated Paul Giamatti and told him like, you know, oh yeah, you know, he wore a fake contact lens to make a, you know, to have the, you know, the eye and everything that made him blind in one eye. Would I have done it? Hell yes, but you did it anyway, sir. It's just like you get moments like that with with those actors that are very self-reflective of them too, that they joke about that stuff. The weirdest one was Christoph Waltz like introducing Ryan Gosling, and he went on this whole thing about what it means to be a man and a doll, and I was just like, okay, maybe it's like the way Christoph Waltz talks, but it just came off weird. It was like, why do I feel like a German is like, well, he is German. I'm like, but you know why I'm going with this? Like, why do I feel like his character from Inglourious Bastards is about to do something right now to this man?
There is a point. There was actually criticism I saw that like the problem with that, some people felt that for the actor category, the supporting actor category, they did not pick like luminaries, like when you had maybe like Tom Hanks
Yeah.
or somebody like that. I thought Christoph Waltz's performance was maybe or like his speech was the weirdest of the bunch.
Yeah.
So I agree with that in so many ways, and I get the criticism if there's any for that. What say you, Dom?
I'm I agree. It can make for some very cool and very great loving moments because those montages of all the actors and actresses winning over the decades, right? It just makes you feel something that's like, hey, this is the history of this art form, and it's all beautiful here, celebrated in this very quick montage. And this is the next logical step in that. But yes, I can also see it maybe derailing, maybe, and I don't know who writes the speeches. I'm assuming the actors have a hand in it. Maybe someone else writes it for them. Maybe, I don't know the process, but it's like I can see them maybe trying to do a joke that doesn't land. Which is why I don't go to stand-up comedy things anymore unless there's like a friend involved, like on stage or anything. It's like I don't, I'm not here for that. We can, I don't know, but it's when it works, it can be fantastic. But as you guys mentioned, if it starts to teeter, it may start feeling really forced, and now you've got like, was it like 10 of these in a single night? So it's like, I don't know. And now Joe did mention like some people might in our group chat, people might think this is just Hollywood jerking itself off. It could be that way, but I know that night it wasn't.
Yeah.
That I thought it was very heartfelt and touching. Also, Brendan Fraser doing it. I'm like, dude, you cannot pick a better day. He's probably gonna get that gig every single year just because that dude can make anyone feel like top of the world.
It's
Can
so
melt
good.
any heart.
What I thought of the whale was completely irrelevant. It's so good to see him not only back in the public eye because he wants to be, but he looks great. He looks healthy. He
Yeah.
looks happy. He looks comfortable. Like, and he's a joy to see. He has become one of those like elite 1% of actors that is almost impossible to hate, like Keanu Reeves. He's become in that echelon. And it's so good that like sidebar that like in a world of negativity and hate and everything like that, it's so awesome to see him get the public outpouring of praise that came last year with his nomination for the whale, his win for the whale, and then him this year delivering that speech. It is really cool to see him back, and I don't think anybody disagrees with that. Other points, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about, or at least briefly touch on. You guys can. I'm just going to run through a couple points that I have here. The John Cena bit was gold. The John Cena bit was gold. It really was. Jimmy Kimmel came out today and said, in all seriousness, the biggest argument about that whole bit was the size of the envelope. Because the network ABC was petrified of it falling or something like that because he was genuinely naked. And
Wow. Okay.
he was absolutely naked for that bit. And that I thought was gold. And I know I mentioned it to you guys in the group chat. Ricky Stenicki is very funny. It's not a perfect comedy, but it's a damn good one. I wish we could have seen it in theaters. I'd still love to talk about it on this show. I think there's a lot to touch on with that movie. John Cena was great. John Mulaney was awesome too. I thought John Mulaney completely owned his bit. I thought he was very funny as a presenter. I thought he was auditioning in a way for hosting gigs. I hope the Oscars would have the balls to give it to him. I think
thought so, too.
That show will go overtime because he would just explain almost every movie the way he did with Angels in the Outfield.
Field of Dreams.
Field of Dreams, my bad.
No, don't disrespect don't disrespect Iowa culture.
And anticipating a future soon to be topic that we're going to talk about, what if instead of showing the best picture like throughout the night as like a montage, it's like, and now Oppenheimer, and like that's the 30-second montage. What if it's just John Mulaney like throughout the night just explaining each best picture?
That's something. I thought the speeches also were a good mix of funny. You had Robert Downey Jr., who you could tell was preparing for that speech for a long, long time, I thought.
Yeah.
Downey Jr.'s speech was kind of funny. It was irreverent. Felt like it was off the cuff. Then you had, I talked about it before, you had Emma Stone's speech that felt emotional, that felt really legitimately shocked. Also, too, I did not know she had a child. I did not know she had a child until she mentioned it.
I didn't know that either.
I didn't know she had, and I don't follow celebrities and the gossip and the relation. I don't care who's dating who's screwing whose car's parked next door. I don't care. But I thought it was, I'm like, I didn't know she was a mom. That's actually really, really something that made that speech sweeter. I did not cry during this Oscars. I did not cry. Damn it, I came close though with Divine Joy Randolph. Yeah. Damn it, I came close. Especially when she was talking about her publicist. Especially when she was talking about the woman that fought for her all these years. And just knowing how good The Holdovers was my number one movie of last year. And everybody I've recommended it to who's seen it feels in about the same agreement as me. We talked about it on this show. Divine Joy Randolph was the one who came very close to me for squeezing out some tears. What about you, Joe? Your favorite moments of this year's Oscars?
My favorite moments, the John Cena bit, yeah, that was one I loved. It was hilarious. The delivery and all was so good from John Cena too. Just getting up to Mike and going, costumes, and just pause. Um, I'm just Ken blew me away, dude. I didn't. I mean, like that. When I heard it was
Yeah.
gonna be, when I heard it was gonna be the biggest performance the Oscars has ever done in terms of backup dancers and just like guest stars. One, who the hell was expecting Slash? Not me. Uh, two, I mean, just the choreography that went into that. I was like, oh my god, dude, this is incredible. And Ryan just went with it. I honestly, man, I don't know how the hell he did it. As a, I mean, shit. If I was an actor like him, of course, yeah, I wouldn't mind doing it for the movie. But doing it live for the Oscars, that's like, oh my god, dude. And he went all out, and I gotta give him credit where credit is due. He killed it for that.
If there's ever a Broadway musical for Barbie, he's fucking on that shit so fast. He's like, I've already accomplished. The attitude is that, yeah, I've accomplished so much with my career already. I could literally just sunset with this fucking gig and just do this like for the rest of my life, because that is the role of a lifetime. It is pure play. That is what that role is, and it's beautiful.
I
100%.
love that performance through and through. I think it's the best song performance that I've seen in the Oscars. And I also love the subtle moment that he gave the mic to America Ferrera and Margot Robbie
Yeah.
too.
Yes.
I love that little bit he did. It's very quick and they sung about a line. Love that performance.
I
Really did.
I also loved Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger going on stage and calling Batman a son of a bitch and saying like, "Oh, you have a lot of nerve to show up here" and everything. That was funny.
Keaton played that great too.
Yeah,
Keaton
yeah,
played it great.
I was like, man, that just that finger waving like that was more
Yeah.
badass than every moment in the Flash movie with him. God, man, I mean, there were genuinely just a lot of moments that I was like, man, I can't wait to see what is gonna happen next this show. Honestly, like I'm enjoying the bits; they're pretty good. Everybody that's come on stage to do something has done it pretty well, or they're just straight to the point and everything. Um, Another speech I loved was American Fiction, the writer and director of the movie. Oh my God,
Cord Jefferson.
thank you. I loved his whole thing about, instead of making one like $300 million movie, why don't we make 10 $20 million movies? Why don't we make $55 million movies? Like, we could do stuff like that and everything. And the way Hollywood, not Hollywood, but the way the box office has changed since COVID, where it's like the big Marvel projects and superhero projects or Indiana Jones that costed this amount of money are not really cutting it close sometimes, or just barely making it over what they made. And now we got stuff like Dune, The Creator, those kind of blockbusters made for around 100 150 million, and they're gonna pass up those box office numbers. Or we get stuff like Everything Everywhere All at Once, almost all these Oscar nominated pictures that are just, hey, like, we're just 15 million $20 million budget movie, and we're making 80 to 90 million in the box office, and people are going out to the theaters week after week to go catch up on these movies that they're hearing great things about.
Yeah.
Extremely well
It's
said. Loved
it-
Cord
it's-
Jefferson's speech.
Yeah.
it's almost too high-minded for it to be taken too seriously, just because, like, that's not how it's gonna freaking go until there's like some sort of Hollywood crash. But hey, that's what dreams are for.
That's what you are for, Dom, to bring us back down to earth.
Yeah, exactly. For me, best moments. Kind of the whole thing. That's a cop out answer, but it's like, yeah, everything just felt right here. Nothing except for that one thing at the end, which we will talk about very soon. It was smooth sailing, because every Oscars, it's like watching a stand-up it's like watching stand-up, like amateur stand-up, where it's like, yeah, this is probably gonna suck. Well, I want to say like 20 to 30%, but no, everything just of the third that I saw was going well, and I'm quite happy for it. So, honestly, Yeah, I mean the Ken song. I like how they were billing the Ken song. I'm just Ken, like throughout the night. It's like, and get ready in like the next bit we're gonna do Ryan Gosling's I'm just Ken. And it's like they know what I'm curious to see what the viewer ratings are. Because I have no this was the epilogue. This was the epilogue of Barbenheimer.
It was.
Oppenheimer I'm coming up with this as I'm saying it. Oppenheimer, it got its prestige. Barbie got its Ken moment.
Yeah.
It got it. So again, like that phenomenon, Oppenheimer got the prestige, got the awards, got all the things that will go down in history, like the history books. Barbie's got the streets. Barbie's got the streets. That's the cultural power of Barbie.
There's
Perfect.
already
Absolutely perfect. I loved it. You know what? This Oscars was perfect.
there's
Absolutely
already
perfect.
a Barbie live in concert happening at Tinley Park here in Illinois, where they're gonna have a live band play the music from the movie, and I'm honestly thinking about going.
I wonder what that's going to sound. I haven't listened to the soundtrack on its
That
own.
might be kind of fun.
Yeah, because
Huh.
I
That might
saw
be
the
kind of
Batman.
fun.
I saw the Batman live in concert, and that was incredible. It's like, I'll go see more of these movies. Honestly,
Yeah, man.
No, that's a really good point. It felt like the epilogue of Barbenheimer, which was such a cultural moment. It's going to be one of those things you had to be there for.
Mhm.
Those two movies coming out simultaneously
Oh, yeah.
too. I really like how you added that, Dom. We'll get into it's our final before our conclusions over here. I save this for the end, specifically the flaws and the disappointments of the show. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's thinking it. There's been articles written about it. We got to get into it. What the hell were Octavia Spencer and Melissa McCarthy doing? What the hell were they doing?
that
It was stupid. It was rambling. They tried to make a joke about writing, how writers keep the actors on track. Didn't flow. Didn't flow. Okay, there. Now I got that out of the way. Okay. And stuff's starting to trickle out a little bit here too. Shit, we're gonna have to take another intermission. What this is what I have in my notes right here. What was that, Al Pacino? What was that? The Oscars could, I think I texted this to the group chat too. I said the Academy members could fuck up a one-car funeral. They really could. You know, that's kind of a reworking of a line from the movie Casino. Joe Pesci says this guy could fuck up a cup of coffee, like, and it's really true. Everything was going so well. And then Al Pacino, imagine the greatest moment of your life, and Al Pacino slurs his way through it. Now, the benefit of doing this show a couple days after the fact and not immediately after the fact is you get a little bit of context here. There's two important bits of context for what Al Pacino did with the Best Picture announcement of the show. It doesn't absolve him of his greatest flaw, but it does provide two bits of context. Number one, Michelle Pfeiffer was supposed to join him on stage for a Scarface reunion.
oh
Michelle Pfeiffer was
Oh.
supposed to join him on stage for a kind of a Scarface homage. Michelle Pfeiffer could not make the show last minute due to a family thing. So that's number one. Number two, the Academy told him not to announce the nominees, to make it quick so as not to run over time. Now, Catherine asked me too, because they showed clips of each individual Best Picture nominated movie throughout the show. She asked, do they normally do that? And I said, yeah, they do. They normally do that. But they always announce the nominees. They always give about a 30-second clip to each Best Picture nominee. Knowing that now, it's not Pacino's screw up. He didn't have a reservation he had to make. He wasn't, Oppenhammered, as Jimmy Kimmel said at one point. It was the Academy's fuck up. But the thing I don't forgive Al Pacino for is why did you open the envelope after 96 years of you knowing how this goes? Why did you open the envelope and say, my eyes see Oppenheimer? Did you forget the 5 words that precede every winner of this thing? That's what led to the awkwardness.
Yeah.
It was not the lack of the nominees. Only the nerds like us watching at home really were like, aren't they going to run down the names of the movies? It was him anticlimactically saying, "My eyes see Oppenheimer," after opening the envelope. That's what delayed the orchestra. That's what delayed it. That was the fuck up there. Al Pacino is still responsible for the screw up. Whether or not they were going to read the nominees, which I still think was a stupid thing not to do, Al Pacino still butchered that whole thing. What do you say, Joe?
All would have been forgiven for me if he would have went, "Ooh, wow, my eyes see Oppenheimer." Like, if he would have done that, I would have busted out laughing. No, I mean, look, watching in the moment, I thought like, oh shit, he just passed by all that. The whole 30-second clip thing that, Steve is talking about, where they, like, kind of present all of the nominees and everything one last time before handing out the award. I was like,
I thought that was the delay. I thought there was a director, a producer in the control booth screaming at the wall of monitors going, did he just skip the whole freaking montage? But no. That was not the case, according to reporting.
yeah, I was genuinely shocked that, like, that's how it went down, because yeah, no, Steve is right. The way he said it is what made it awkward. If I think, yeah, okay, look, if you want to cut down on time, and because you're showing about 15 to 20 seconds of each movie that's nominated tonight for Best Picture throughout the show, if you don't want to do it at the end because it might come off as repetitive, sure, I get that. Have a better speech written, though, to hand out the award, because it really felt like Al Pacino got on stage and, like, was just kind of rambling on about what was written in front of him, and then when it came
What was he supposed to say? What was he supposed to do? Like, really, it was just, and now Al Pacino walks up and the Oscar goes to. Was that really supposed to be it?
I think, like, maybe,
I think they probably had something planned if Michelle Pfeiffer was there.
maybe.
But I almost feel like the Academy told the poor 83-year-old man to
Just
go
come
out
up
there
with
and
it on the
fucking wing
spot.
it. And go out there and wing it.
He
Can't do that.
He got a minute and he said, "Fuck this, my eyes see Oppenheimer."
No. Maybe if this was 70s and 80s Al Pacino, but you have Dunkachino Al Pacino. We can't do this anymore.
Dude.
He's too old. He's just too old. I wouldn't even trust De Niro or Scorsese or anyone with that. They're just too freaking old.
I've had people ask me, is this worse than the time Moonlight, La La Land was the Best Picture winner for, like, about a minute. And I told them, yeah, because at least, like, there was at least the whole build up to it, and it was like, okay, La La Land won. And then when it was revealed, it was, like, still a big shock and everything. But, like, this was just uneventful. It was just like, wow, Nolan's first, like, movie to ever win an Oscar for Best Picture, the first time he won Best Director, an eventful movie that brought people out to the theaters. I mean, yeah, no, there was the argument about that. It rode the tail of Barbie, of course, and yeah, anybody can make that argument as well.
I still think announcing the wrong movie is worse.
Okay, all right.
Personally, I think announcing the wrong movie is worse.
You know what?
It's worse because
bad.
You build up one group of people and then knock
That's
them down
true.
immediately.
That's true. Okay.
I wouldn't even say this is as bad as what they did to Chadwick Boseman.
Oh, okay.
That's the worst thing.
I wouldn't say that's as bad. I would say that's the worst. Yeah. That's the worst in how they did it. And I've said before on the show, that was the first time I legitimately believed that they do not know who won until the envelope is written, because they have a contract printing company that prints those envelopes. They know who wins. But the Academy doesn't. That was the first time I actually believed that, was when they reshuffled the order and ended with Best Actor, expecting Chadwick Boseman to win.
When did well, we only have a few minutes, but I will say my question just to the air is just, where did we go from Godfather Part 2 Al Pacino to, like, Dunkachino Al Pacino? Or even you could get Dog Day Afternoon Al Pacino. Like, where did that change?
Around the same time when Robert De Niro did Rocky and Bullwinkle.
I was just gonna say that was the first thing that popped into my mind. That was the first thing that popped into my mind.
Show and the fucking show.
The only other bad thing I have to say is he's not bad. I think it's time for Kimmel to finally hang this up. I understand he's the safe bet always, but we need to find some new hosts. He's not terrible, but it's just like his jokes that night were 50-50 with me, and I was like, you know what, man,
he's overstayed his welcome.
Yeah, I miss Chris Rock. I miss
Well, they're
Seth
not gonna do
MacFarlane. Yeah, they won't ever do Chris Rock. I don't think Chris Rock wants to be on that stage ever again.
Well, that's the sad part, is that Rock and MacFarlane were so edgy that they scared the Academy, and that's why they go with Kimmel, because ABC owns Kimmel too.
Yeah.
You know, like that's a whole other problem too. Like I still contend, of my lifetime, my favorite Oscar host was MacFarlane.
Same.
Was Seth MacFarlane.
Same.
That was my favorite Oscar host. He was entertaining, he was edgy, he was funny, he was unpredictable, and that's exactly why he won't come back. That's exactly why he'll never host the Oscars again.
My favorite joke from MacFarlane is because that was the year Lincoln was nominated, and he made a joke about his assassination. And people went, "Aw." He's like, "It's been 100 years." Like, what? Too soon?
He treated it like a roast, and
really
that was
did,
the best part about the whole thing. Don't forget the "We Saw Your Boobs" song either.
He treated it like a roast, but he at least had some class to it, unlike Ricky Gervais, where he just goes in.
Steve Martin and Alec Baldwin were also decent hosts, too. I will add that, too. Yeah. They were pretty decent hosts. We'll be right back to wrap this whole mess up over here. Our Oscar show continues in about 60 to 90 seconds on Sleepless with Steve.
Shit, we're about to go longer than the Oscars.
Back and better than ever, Sleepless with Steve on a Tuesday evening, a random Tuesday evening. We are recapping the Oscars. The one final note before I segue into my wrap-up here, the only other disappointment, besides the fact that Al Pacino was really hung out to dry for the Best Picture nomination, I think the only other thing that really sucked, flat out sucked about this year's Oscars, was the random choppy way they did the in memoriam. I wanted to make sure I noted that. I wanted to make sure that I noted that. I like what they did because they tried to do it so they had they tried to make it more than a slideshow. They tried to have choreography and an onstage performance. The problem was, and you could see that they wrestled with this in the control room, between all the different shots they had to take. They could not find a way to cleanly present everything. Yeah. It was either the montage was too much in the foreground and the dancers were distracting. Then they had, like, which they've never done before, they had like agents and executives and business people in Hollywood memorialized, but they were on those very narrow screens that were made to look like film reels too. And with all the dancing and the singing going on, it was too distracting. It was very hard to see. If you had a small television, you really could not read the names. It overshadowed people that we lost this year, like Tina Turner, Norman Jewison, Richard Lewis, just a couple of weeks ago.
Cormac McCarthy.
Too. Yeah, like there was so
He was a tiny name.
Yeah, he was. There were so many people. You know, every year there's so many people to memorialize and everything. I thought the in memoriam was lackluster, and I felt really bad because I have no problem with them doing a musical performance on a piano and then full screening a montage for 4 minutes. I have no problem with that. They tried to give it so the people in the audience had something to watch, but it was too distracting. That was probably, if not for, I mean, even in some ways, because you're memorializing like 50 people, in some ways that was the worst part of the Oscars because it shortchanged a lot of people.
I completely forgot about that too, with the dancing and everything.
Yeah, it butchered it. It butchered it.
And it's like, I don't want to not give jobs to dancers who are consistently probably the most shafted in 100%. Terms of like, for the amount of sweat that they put into their craft. But at the same time, yeah, just do like a single instrument, piano, cello, whatever, and then just full screen. It's about them. It's about them, not anything else. What was it? Foo Fighters, leader of the Foo Fighters. What's
Dave
his name?
Grohl.
Frontman of the. Yeah, he literally just played Blackbird on an acoustic guitar 1 year. I was like, that was perfect.
Yeah.
That was great. Thank
That's all
you.
you need.
Mhm.
That is all you need. But to wrap this up, this long Sleepless with Steve episode on this random Tuesday night, the 96th Academy Awards, I would say, were very entertaining.
Yeah.
It did not feel very long. It kept moving. I thought more jokes hit than missed. I thought the overall presentation was beautiful. I like the winners even too. I like the fact that if you look at it too, nearly every movie got something. If we're looking strictly at best pictures, Oppenheimer had the most awards with 7. American Fiction with a slight upset for best adapted screenplay. You had Anatomy of a Fall, best original, excuse me. You had you had Anatomy of a Fall win as well. You had Barbie win, Holdovers won. I feel like Killers of the Flower Moons win, even though it did not technically win anything. I thought Killers of the Flower Moons win was the best original song performance. I thought that was their win in and of itself. It was a tremendous performance. You had Maestro. There was a couple good jokes at Maestro's expense. Past Lives was a little shafted. Poor Things won more than I think most people thought it would, and The Zone of Interest took home Best Sound. So it was almost like every single movie got something in one way, shape, or form. Barbie won Best Original Song too. It was also kind of funny that after Best Original Song and that amazing I'm Just Ken performance, the Oscar goes to the other song from Barbie. What was I made for? the other song in Barbie.
The
But
O'Connell siblings.
overall, I thought it was a very good ceremony. It was very fun. It was in and out in a way, as in and out as an Oscars can be. I wish I would have done better with my picks, but overall, I'm very satisfied. And I think the best part about the ceremony was it led to a tremendous discussion here on Sleepless with Steve. We'll go Joe, then Dom to send us home.
Hamish Hamilton, bring him back for next year. I think this is the first
Yes.
time he directed the Oscars. He's directed the Emmys. He's directed Super Bowl halftime shows. He did Ushers this year as well. This guy, I think, knows how to run these live shows. And I think he's got a good formula right here for the Oscars that
Yes,
I
he
think
does.
they should keep playing around with. In terms of the 5 people going up on stage, which I know some people have been like, oh, like, because there was the whole controversy that Emma Stone didn't shake everyone's hand on stage, and neither did Robert Downey Jr., but they were seen backstage hugging all the nominees. Look, man, when you're going up on stage and there's 5 people, one of them's handing you the award, you got to make it right towards the mic to give your speech and everything. Yeah, you're not going to say hi to everybody, all right? Like, everybody needs to calm down a bit.
Yes.
But I think they have a good layout. I think they have a good system here going that play around with it. Get a different host other than Kimmel. Kimmel, of course, is your safe bet and everything. He's not terrible, like I said. I just agree with Steve. He's overstayed his welcome. And perfect this formula so that when we get to the 100th anniversary, not the 100 years of the Oscars, when we get to that show, it's going to be one to actually look forward to. It's going to be one that people actually talk about. Because there was, viewership is bad and everything with this. But a lot of people told me, like, no, I actually stuck around. I actually watched this one longer than I did because it was going by. It started earlier and everything. You guys have something on your hand. You want to get your viewership back up to where it used to be or where you want it to be. You have a good team behind this. I would bring them back next year and try to perfect this formula over and over again, leading to your 100th year anniversary.
Well said,
Absolutely.
Dom. Send us home.
This was normally a time to be Joe. You just stole the words right out of my mouth, man. Absolutely, because this is normally a time to be like fear the cringe, and we got a taste of that at the very end. But this is definitely something to look forward to. This was a great Oscars, not just the show itself, but or at least a good Oscars, good solid Oscars, but also for what won. Like nothing really upset me too much. The sound thing, it's like, well, I honestly think Zone of Interest might like. I'm very excited to see some of the big historical movies that came out this past year, or last year, which was Rustin and Zone of Interest, and then Boy and Heron, because I think that takes place after World War II. So Great slate of movies for period pieces as well, and I'm very excited about that because there's the history part of me that loves that stuff, as you all know. Not Napoleon, thankfully, but for everything else, good time. So yeah, man, Oscars. I think I might enjoy watching them again, as Joe said.
Cannot wait because a year from now, we will be talking about the movies that were nominated from 2024 for the 97th Academy Awards as we inch closer to that 100th. Great show tonight, guys. Really appreciate you guys making the time on a Tuesday night, a very random Tuesday night, as we keep saying. We will be off now for over a week. Next Wednesday, tentatively, I believe, we are going to be talking Snack Shack. We're going to be talking that new movie that comes to theaters this Friday. So we will be talking about that movie next Wednesday, back to our normal time slot. But this was a fun night to recap the Oscars. I appreciate you gentlemen being on tonight. Joe, great job as always hosting the show. And again, I look forward to next Wednesday. For Joe Viso, Dominic Guanzon, and yours truly, this has been Sleepless with Steve.